because man's task is to make the earth after the model of heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Man's project is to heavenize the earth. Man is made to transform the world from glory to glory, to take hold of it and break it down and remake it after the image of heaven.
Welcome back to the Reformed Reset. My name is Grant, and joined with me is my beautiful wife, Ericha, the weaker vessel.
Hello, everyone.
Guys, if you would please, right now, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the like button, and hit the bell so you get notified every time we release new content. Also, please go down in the description below. Check out our links to our social media, our website. You can send us an email, takeholdstudios@gmail.com, and again, please leave a comment on YouTube or wherever, and
you can purchase a copy of Behold Your King, Family Advent Guide.
That's right. Time is a ticking away. So there will be a link in the description below to our family devotional Advent Guide called Behold Your King. I think there's a few of you that have bought it this year, actually. But
cool.
We still have a few days until Advent starts, and if you buy it now,
you can get an ebook too, can't you?
Yes, actually, that's the moneymaker right there. If you go to ezrapress.ca and go to I'll put that link down there too, so you guys can go right to the ebook. You'll get a PDF. I think it's $1.99. I mean, the price is right.
Big money.
You know, so go do that and have fun doing Advent. Okay. I think that's it. What are we talking about today, babe?
We are talking about parenting, specifically your daughters today.
Okay.
Blessing your daughters is probably what we'll call it.
All right. Blessing your daughters.
This kind of stemmed from the Nancy Wilson Spankgate that happened.
Right.
A couple weeks ago now, I think, ish. And then in response to some of the silliness that came from that whole dust-up, Toby Sumter, who is a CREC pastor in the same area, he kind of shared that he says a gender-specific blessing over his children before bed every night. Anyway, just got us talking about what we do with our kids.
Right.
And
one of the things that we mentioned is that when we do Sabbath dinner on Sunday, we do a blessing at the beginning of the liturgy for the men, women, and children. But during the children blessing, and this was something largely borrowed from Doug Wilson. They're so good on family stuff.
That's our washer singing to you in the background.
That's right.
Thanks, Samsung.
And the blessing for the children addresses boys and girls, and it comes from Psalm 144, verse 12.
Yeah, do you want to read them?
Yeah, can I read it?
Okay. I just think it's important also up front to note that gender-neutral parenting is stupid.
Amen. You're raising men or you're raising women. Like, you're raising one or the other. So to say parenting is just the same all across the board would just deny that you are raising two different types of arrows in God's kingdom, right? So Psalm 144:12 says, that our sons may be as plants grown up in their youth, that our daughters may be as pillars sculpted in palace style. So
we'll focus on the girl one today. Probably ladies first, right? So gender neutral parenting, it's stupid. It doesn't work unless you want to have a very confused child. And I think because the church has adopted a lot of gender neutrality in how we parent and how we employ people in the church or whatever, the culture has adopted a very similar style. It's my phone.
Wonderful.
Has adopted a very similar style. And they also don't understand that there are differences between genders or what they ought to be or whatever. There's all kinds of confusion. It ought not be so in the church.
Yeah, egalitarianism, which just believes that all gender distinction and beyond that, all hierarchies and distinctions in that manner are to be done away with. So do away with it all and just there's general rules for everyone, general guidelines for everyone.
Which is true to some extent. Obviously, we all are told to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? We're told, all kinds of commands in Scripture. That's true for men and the ladies as well.
Yeah, what happens is downstream of that is the how. So how does a man love God with all his heart, soul, mind, and strength? How does a young man do that? And then for a woman, how does a young woman do that? And that's where you realize there are streams that come from that main river.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about here.
And why? Also, there's like so much wrapped up into it, because why a woman does something is different than why a man does something. Anyway, but so for daughters in particular, let's hone in there, and then like the next episode we can do boys, huh?
Yep, that sounds good. Do you want to talk about pillars first of all? So the first thing it says is that they're supposed to be pillars.
Yes.
What does a pillar do?
Or columns sculpted.
Yeah, columns sculpted in the palace style, or pillars sculpted.
So this is an interesting thing, because we have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. I had to stop and do the math in my head.
What year is this?
And a 10-year-old daughter. And we do a lot of like shopping together. We love to go thrift store shopping. And so one of our favorite things to find are vintage clothes. And we had a whole conversation the last time we went out, because when you look at like modern clothes and modern styles versus like a more vintage style, clearly in decades past, femininity has been praised and has seen in a more idealistic way than where we currently are in fashion. And my daughters and I were talking about what it meant to be a column sculpted in the palace style, and how we hear weird things in the church that like beauty doesn't matter, right? That being decorated or being beautiful in some circles especially could almost be seen as like a vice rather than a virtue. And so encouraging my daughters that beauty is good and you should want to be as beautiful as you can be, and that's a good thing. And there's certainly a way you can be vain and gaudy, like conceited with it, and gaudy, or there's a way that you can see beauty as virtuous and not let beauty be about you but about your creator.
Right. Well, and again, this is very theological, because God created this world and then told us to cultivate it, to make it more beautiful than we had been given it.
Right.
And we've bought into this lie that the most natural is what's best. And so don't touch it. Let it just be as it is.
It's like a conservationist almost.
Yeah, and Christians can buy and fall into this trap as well, where, we buy into, that's natural. It says natural on the box, so that's obviously better. But this is the environmentalist worldview too. Stop digging in the earth. Stop, all this stuff. You're raping
glorifying.
the earth. But it's a glory act. What we're doing is we're glorifying. And it should be, because the whole idea of cultivating or husbanding, which is really where that word comes from, with take dominion and cultivate the earth. It's the word tend for men. God put man in the garden to tend and keep it. The word tend is mess with it so that more is produced. The idea is that what you're doing
return on investment.
Is that you get more the next time. And this is that very post-mill mindset too, right? That we're looking for more and more and more, because that's how God's created the world.
Right.
So when you talk about clothing or dress or how you look, it is very theological to think, I'm taking what God's given me and then I'm making beauty, or I'm turning beauty out of it and causing it to glorify Him because of the pretty colors of my dress or whatever it is.
Sure.
It can be very theological. It can be very intentional.
Right. And so for that teen age, which is like a kind of a crucial, like a pivotal point for a young woman who is becoming a woman, it is important to realize that like your body is changing, your mind is changing, you are maturing, and that's a good thing. And as that happens, especially, you will become more beautiful. That's what's happening. You're becoming more beautiful, and that's a good thing. It's not something to be ashamed of. And hopefully you have a mom and a dad who are training you into that beauty and showing you, you are beautiful. Let me show you how to accentuate those features. Let me show you how to make, in a world where like everything can be done in a very vain and like self-gratifying way, like teaching your daughter that being beautiful glorifies God if you're doing it right. Actually, it combats against that type of vanity. Hopefully.
Well, it's kind of funny, this thought just dawned on me, because some of the horror stories of the being vain about looks and stuff are actually the women who remove everything from their body, right? Yeah. It's like the opposite of what we're saying. Which is what
we're seeing in the trans movement, right? We're seeing even mastectomies, and we're seeing like women becoming dykes, and they're cutting off everything that makes them feminine. Why? Because they don't want to glorify God in their bodies.
That's really good, because even the hippie liberal side of like bodies are beautiful and like nudity and whatever, it's just the beauty of the human body. It's that's not actually what we're
or people who are like afraid to wear a little bit of makeup or curl a hair or shave an armpit, or like, well, it's natural, so don't touch it, don't change it, don't alter it, don't pierce an ear, don't, you know what I mean? Like, don't wear mascara, because that would be defacing what God created. And I just think that's super silly as well, because no one is telling you don't put clothes on. That's defacing what God made. Like, of course not. Of course, there is a way in which you can do those things that is glorifying to God. It accentuates, it beautifies, it glorifies. There's a way you can totally, mess it up and ruin it.
Sin can ruin anything.
Right.
Sin does ruin everything if allowed to.
Sure.
So when it comes to clothes and makeup and all that stuff, it can.
Sure. And they're like, I having kids also, I don't want to stomp out preferences altogether, right? Like, one of our daughters loves pink and sparkles, and one of our daughters loves more like a pastel, more of like a muted sort of palette, and that's fine. Like, it's totally fine to have different, unique, nuanced preference, whatever. That's fine.
All still can be very feminine.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the point of it is not that we all look exactly the same, but that we all look feminine if we are women. That's it. Just look like a girl.
That's right. And we were talking about this earlier and mentioning how there is an element of subjectivity, and all that means is not that it's morally relative, but that every culture, which I think is cool, actually, that you can go from culture to culture, and this feminine beauty is going to take a different shape. It's going to take a different look, a little bit different color
even
palette everywhere.
Something as simple as like in the 80s, wearing gold jewelry was more popular, and then in the 90s, silver took a spotlight, and then that lasted until the turn of the millennium, and now gold's kind of in again, and that sort of like those ebbs and flows. And it's not that gold or silver are wrong, it's just a trend. There's nothing wrong with wearing either one. It's just what's trendy or what's more common, like that. But both are beautiful, and so this is what we're talking about, right? It's not that like it has to be everyone must wear gold if you're a Christian. That's stupid.
But and whatever decade or country you're in or something, there is a man and a woman. There is styles for men and women, and it's clearly distinguished.
Well, isn't it interesting that through all decades, women have always loved jewelry? Like,
true.
That's just a universal principle throughout all cultures, throughout.
Well, I think.
And why is that? Well, because women are supposed to be ornaments, right?
Yeah.
We're beautiful. We're
sculpted in the palace style. That is something much more akin to a woman's look and everything. Men who are gaudy and all done up and whatever, that's typically frowned upon, or a sign of something to be ashamed of. That, like, men have never really.
Well, even in Proverbs 31, a woman or wife is referred to as a ruby, like gems. Like there's something there, right? So. Well,
it's funny that when Jesus uses the term soft, the term malakoi, when he's rebuking the Pharisees, when you came out to look for John the Baptist, did you look for somebody in soft clothing? And that was a term of royal clothing. But yeah, it's like, limp.
Don't be gay.
Limp. gay clothing, but that's not manly. That isn't a Christian manly way of dress.
No.
And he was rebuking them as religious leaders who did care about that.
Right.
So
for our daughters, when we were doing this whole thrifting excursion the other day, breaking down that verse in Psalm 144, where it's what does a column do? And it's perfect timing because we're watching this show on, I think it's Amazon Prime, and it's
Steve something. It's a guy named Steve.
Yeah.
Steve Jacobs. Does he have 2 first names?
He does have 2 first names. What is it? Oh my goodness, I can't think of it now.
Jacobs.
No. We'll think of it.
Steve.
If you're interested, you can message Grant. He'll tell you what it is. Anyway, it's this travel show with this guy named Steve.
It's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
He goes to different, mostly European countries, and he just talks through like the history of the country, and he goes to some of like the major like museums and talks through art and a lot of Christian history throughout Europe. I doubt he's a Christian man, but
doesn't seem like he's a Christian, but he doesn't shy away from acknowledging the Christian influence.
And he's pretty accurate with things that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
But we've gone through like Italy, we've gone through Florence, where have we gone?
Greece,
Austria, England, and
France.
then France, and then recently we went through Turkey, which is predominantly like a Muslim country, and the kids only made it through one of the 2 episodes, and they're like, "This is so boring. I'm like, I don't like this." And so we got to have a conversation about how it's because they're a Muslim country. Like the Christian influence in France and Italy and the Renaissance and all these things, it impacted beauty and it impacted their art and their architecture and their literature and all these different things in such a great way. And then you get to a Muslim country and it's ugly and like the food is not as like colorful and beautiful or just everything about it is
the women are all covered up.
Yeah, everything about it is just so subpar. And the kids are like, I just don't like this. And so then you go to like France or the Louvre, or like you go to all these different places, and it's like you see these beautiful
there's almost not enough time in the episode
sculptures and like, so you see these beautiful columns in these palaces and in these like chapels and stuff, and they're massive. Right? It's like 4 people to get around these columns, and they're just like carved and decked out, and it like leads the eye up to these beautiful ceilings that are just like gold leaf everything and frescoes and all kinds of, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And the girls and I were talking about like, okay, so in scripture you're referred to as one of those beautiful columns, right? Yeah. You're a column sculpted in the palace style. You're this beautiful thing. And like, it is okay to be beautiful for beauty's sake, right? These columns don't have to be that beautiful.
Right. They can just do their job of holding up the wall.
Right. And that is the purpose. The purpose is to hold the ceiling up, to hold the walls up, whatever. That's the job. But they're beautiful just for the sake of being beautiful. Yeah. And you could get a 4x4 in there and it would do the exact same thing, but it'd be far less beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so just like talking through like beauty and how good beauty is and how good it is to be ornate and just intricate and godly and lovely, and like how it just draws the eye up when you're looking at these beautiful columns, and like that's part of the point too, right? Like these big huge pillars and the eyes drawn upward. When you see a beautiful woman, it should draw the eye upward.
Well, and to go, to talk about the whole pillar aspect of the importance women play in building a society and building building the world by being able to fill the earth, to multiply and fill the earth with other image bearers. You clearly need women to do that. Mm-hmm. And Christianity has been one of the major forces in dignifying women and their God-given role as mothers and homemakers and all that kind of stuff. So it's important it's cool to see both of these things put together, how a woman is the glory of man, right? The woman glorifies. And then she's also this pillar in society that you have to have. She's absolutely crucial and necessary. Right. Imagine if you created this pillar and made it extremely ornate, but it was laying on the ground.
Right. It does
and
nothing.
Someone said, well, what are you using that for? No, it's just going to lay there and look real pretty. You'd think, well, it's kind of a waste. That's kind of dumb.
Right.
But when it's this pillar, it has this really important job, and it's ornate and beautiful, and you're wowed by it. Like you said, your eyes are drawn up, and you're like, wow. And it was really fun. So I wasn't a part of this conversation when they were out thrifting. And they come home, they tell me about it, and they're all excited and stuff. And then that night we watched another episode. And every time there was a shot with a pillar, Nora goes, "Oh, there's another pillar. There's another pillar." And she remembered.
It's a Corinthian pillar.
Yeah, that's right. She said that.
Yeah.
That was great. But she got it, and that's now working its way through her mind. I love that. I love it a lot.
And it was the same child, Nora, who, when we were in the car, said, and pillars have to be really strong.
That's right.
Like, yeah, there's a lot of weight put on a pillar, isn't there? And without that pillar, a lot comes crashing down. It's not that women are just these weak little helpless beauties in the corner. No, they've got a job to do. And there's a lot of, we need strong women. We need like strong pillars. And we need strong women who are also beautiful.
Does that mean women need to all be power lifters, babe?
No, I don't think I really want them holding up buildings. That wasn't really the...
So what kind of strength would we want to emphasize?
We'll get into that in more depth in a later episode, because I think we're going to get into something about being precious, but like a godly strength.
But girls are still, they still need to have godly strength, like self-control over their emotions and all that kind of stuff.
Well, Paul talks about weak-willed women and the type of chaos that can breed in the church. And so we don't want weak-willed women. We want strong women who are strong in their tasks. Well, as Proverbs 31 talks about, her arms are strong for her tasks. There's a lot of strength that Christian women are supposed to have. It's not that you're just beautiful and useless. It's that you're beautiful and you have a purpose to serve.
That's good. That is very good.
Yep.
Anything else?
Probably.
I was just thinking about the gentle and quiet spirit and how that would go with still having that takes strength to be a gentle and quiet spirit.
It's probably one of those phrases that gets misused and abused in a lot of different ways too.
Because typically I think people understand it to be
a quiet little simpleton
docile.
over there.
You're docile. That's right.
Be a little simpleton and say, yes, sir.
Right. Just be docile. Just let anything happen in your life. And you don't need to have opinions. And you shouldn't worry about anything.
Not only should you probably not have opinions, it's probably imperative you don't. You probably should just go to your husband or your dad and say, what is my opinion? That's probably don't learn anything.
Yeah. If you learn stuff, it'll be hard to be a gentle and quiet spirit.
That's not what we think that means at all.
No, I think meekness, actually the true definition of meekness is strength under control. That's the definition of meekness. And when I think about a gentle and quiet spirit, it's a woman who's able to do that, who is able to control her emotions and direct them in the way in where they need to go. She's able to direct it where they need to go. And
unto a godly end. Right.
And of course, guided by the word of God.
I think JL is a beautiful example of that gentle and quiet spirit, right?
That's true.
If you look at her, none of us would think driving a tent bag through a temple is gentle. It's a gentle act. We would all be like, that's pretty harsh. But it was a gentle and actually very quiet because they were hiding. That's the kind of action that like Christian gentleness, feminine Christian gentleness can look like. It can look like JL.
She probably walked up to him very genteel.
Well, he walked into her tent.
Right. Didn't she cover him? And then
I think it says that he laid on her lap and she fed him warm milk. And then when he fell asleep, then she put a tent peg through his head.
Remembering something wrong. But she probably, tiptoed up. At least that's what I imagine. She tiptoed up.
I don't imagine it being frantic. Yeah. It couldn't be a frantic experience.
She's very gentle.
It had to be like shrewd and quiet, but like methodical and thoughtful, right? Because she was
but intentional.
And think about the strength that would actually entail. Like the enemy is literally walking into your tent. The initial response from most women is like panic.
Yeah, holy the amount of emotional control she had.
Yeah, so she somehow maintains her faculties there.
Yeah.
She thinks up a plan. She knows who her enemy is, and she handles business.
She's quick-witted enough to... It's remarkable.
Yeah, and she knew enough who her enemy was too. Yeah. That's the thing that Christian women need to do better at is understanding who you're supporting and who the enemy is.
Right. Yeah. It's really good. So, well, that's a little bit about wanting our daughters to be columns sculpted in the palace style.
Yeah, just conversations we have.
It obviously is character, but it is also physical appearance.
Yeah, I think that's something...
We're not Gnostics.
Yes, that's something that we wanted to bring out, is that it is internal spiritual reality and an outward physical manifestation.
We aren't just, spirits that happen to be trapped in a body, and so we need to not care about all that. And
going back to Turkey and their culture there, and how my kids didn't love those episodes. They didn't love their culture. It's, if you are a Christian, you cannot help but glorify and edify things around you.
Yes.
You can't help it. Like, it's just going to come out in you. And if you look at some of these beautiful palaces or some of these beautiful cathedrals, like, there was so much, like, just praise and adoration oozing out of these artists that it literally had to go on the ceilings because the walls were already full. Yeah, it's like it just comes out everywhere. You can't help it. If you want to see like a woman who is growing in the Lord and has tons of good fruit, you're probably going to just be able to look at her life around her and be like, that woman right there. Right. She's doing good stuff.
The fruit of her hands.
She's at peace with God. You can tell.
Right. Well, it's so...
It overflows.
Yeah, when you told me the kids, that was their take on the Turkey one, it just made me smile. And again, you see the antithesis of Christians who have built Europe with these cathedrals and beautiful cities all over that, sadly, and what's funny is even though they've walked away from God, those still remain. Those buildings are still there as a reminder of better days in the past.
Well, and it's kind of one of those things that even if you hate to love it, you can't help but love it.
Right.
Like, in as much as
Millions
a lot of people, I think of like
year.
Benjamin Franklin, or someone who's like, I'm not a Christian, but I can't help but acknowledge that what they offer the world is beneficial for culture.
Right. And the modern idea that we can do life and we can answer all of life's questions by looking within, what does that produce? World wars and the crappiest art we've ever had, the crappiest architecture for thousands and thousands. Like, it hasn't produced anything beautiful. Beauty is gone because there's no beauty within us. We are sinful and depraved, so if you stay there, it's going to be ugly. And now we don't even know what genders are, and we're chopping up our bodies, we're chopping up our babies before they're born because we've just disregarded all of the beauty in God's
And I think
creation.
a lot of Christians would listen to us talk about this and say, I'm not having abortions, I don't love modern art, I don't whatever. Okay, I get it. But the thing is if I were to go on like the average, even reformed Christian mom's page, and I were to tell women, like, you need to put some mascara on, you need to shave your legs, you need to wear some perfume, you need to brush your teeth more than once a day, you need to actually look beautiful and train your daughters to do the same, I would be laughed out of that.
You'd be banned from
I
the
would
group.
be banned. I would be public
And why
enemy
is that?
number one. Because there's still something in Christian culture that wants to say, don't tell me how I have to look. Don't give me rules. Don't force me into a certain mold. I want to be who I uniquely am, and I am beautiful, and I am special, and this is individualism.
Yeah, they bought the lie of modernism, of the Enlightenment.
Exactly.
Yeah, all the answers are in you, and
they lie within you.
Because most of them are probably still adhering to some kind of Arminian theology too. That they chose Jesus, that they right there. A lot of them are
hopefully not reformed groups, but yes. Right. And
so
that
the individualism is making its way.
And they live in a world, even if it's an imaginary one in their own heads, where their bodies are untainted by sin, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that their breath stinks in the morning, like, they'll say, yeah, of course it does. But if you tell them, well, that if you love your husband and your children, you should brush it, they'll say, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
This is how my body naturally is, so don't tell me I need to change it. It's like,
right.
It really is that crazy sometimes. It's wicked.
So
brush your teeth.
Don't be a Gnostic and brush your teeth.
Slap some mascara on.
That'd be a good...
Deodorant's really a good idea.
Don't be a Gnostic and brush your teeth.
Just make sure there's no aluminum in it.
That's right. Don't want cancer. Oh,
now we're getting into weird places.
All right. Well, drop us a link or drop us a comment below.
Drop us a link.
You can drop us a link too.
Drop us a link to the internet dumpster fires you've set.
It may be. Drop a comment below and let us know what you think. We'd appreciate it. But come back again. We will talk about boys and how to raise saplings growing up in their youth. And more stuff is on the way. So make sure you subscribe, hit like, and all of that stuff. Until next time, take hold and reorder creation by first reforming your home. This has been the Reformed Reset.
But on the basis of grace and on the finished work of Jesus Christ, the project is back and forth, and the destiny of a new transformed world is assured.
I just put the sourdough in the oven too, so I've got like 40 minutes.